Human rights and the fifth estate.
Comunidad.
Daraja.
Smile.
Harambe.
Makar.
Righteousness.
Habla.
Human rights and the fifth estate.
Okay. What is your name?
My name is Romarico, Pontillas.
How old are you?
My age is 67.
What company are you working before?
Dole, Philippines.
How many years are you working with Dole?
40 years.
And what is the nature of your work?
Pumason injector.
My name is Philippine Mahumot.
How old are you?
I'm 60 years old.
Where do you live?
I live in Quilsado Subdivision, DBCP, Manabo City, Philippines.
What company are you working before?
I work in Dole, Philippines, San Pilco.
How many years are you working with Dole Stampilco?
I'm working for 25 years.
And what is the nature of your work?
Pumason injector.
And what is your illness today?
My illness is heart failure, arthritis, kidney failure, rheumatism, lagi po stroke.
I have money, mom. I have no money.
This illness or sickness when I was working in the plantation mill.
This is a boil. They come from Compostela, Bali, Davao, Philippines. We are living in a area wherein DBCP was applied, and DBCP stay in the soil for 20 years. This was applied in 1970 to early 1980s in our areas, and this was banned in 1977 by the IPA, but still they use this chemical and the year in the early 1980s.
My name is Dominador Calamba,
How old are you?
76 years old.
What company are you working?
Stampilco, Dole, Stampilco.
How many years are you working with Dole?
40 years.
And what is the nature of your work?
Injector of Pumason.
And what are you suffering for today? And what is your sickness?
Tuberculosis, kidney trouble, heart and liver and disease.
We have been victim for the DBCP chemicals, which was introduced by the multi-companies of the banana plantation. This product is will go to Japan, China, Korea, and others. The countries supplied by this product did not know the suffering of our of these workers within this farm. These people living within the plantation is affected by this DBCP, and before it was more or less, I do not know the exact figure, but more or less it is more or less 32,000 to 40,000 people. We members were not informed concerning the adverse effect of the seed product, and they failed to monitor the health of the members of this DBCP victims exposed to said product. They failed also to place adequate labels on containers of said product and warn them of the damages of the said product. This product can cause cancer. Number one is sterility, cancer, degenerative problems, genealogical afflictions, psychological problems, social reflection. His hand and foot cannot move because suffering for muscle pain, and cannot talk clearly, and he has a guide, a helper to assist him in walking. I can get boils of plantation or banana plantation in Mawab. My arm can get a boil because of the chemical.
White spout. The company provide me my medicine because I cannot buy a medicine. I have no work and I have asthma. Until now, I have an asthma.
We members of this DBCP victims of this Dibromochloropropane is pleading for the dependents to help us in terms of monetary, in terms of financial and moral support, children left behind by their father. To let them go to school for their education. We bring with us in this forum our hopes and aspirations, hopes for the healing of our affliction, aspiration for the retrieval of our long departed welfare and well-being. The course of action resulted in countless infirmities and deaths, causing us economic hardships and adversely affected our lives as opportunities for better education, medical and health care. Subsistence, clothing, security and shelter dwindled and become inaccessible to the extent that our lives and those of our dependents have been pitted and emptied of human dignity.
Well, first of all, I think what you did is very, very brave, and you have a lot of support. It may seem like you don't have a lot of support, but you actually do have a lot of support. What's important for you is to join an organization that's really fighting for your interests. And right now, the leading group or national group that's fighting for your, not just your interests, but the interests of all farm workers in the Philippines is Kilusan Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or KMP. So it's really important that you link up or you join a local association that is affiliated with this group KMP in your region, because really, and this organization can also provide you with resources which include access to medical services that you actually need right now because you are exposed to harmful chemicals because of your working conditions. Bayan is a Filipino word, it's a Tagalog word for nation and people. 75% of the Filipino people live directly off of the land. So, yet the government doesn't really invest too much in agricultural development. So the agricultural sector in the country is very, very underdeveloped, pre-industrial, and backwards. So just to give you an example is that we are still tilling the land with animals versus machines, or we till it with our hands. So we don't have modern technological implements to, make production more efficient in the Philippines. And that's a problem for people who live off the land. The basic problem for the rural communities and for farmers is the fact that it's the question of ownership. You have so many people that live directly off of the land, yet there are virtually no opportunities for them to be able to own it. And that's the basic problem. That's the basic reason why poverty and hunger persists in the Philippines, because the vast majority of the people who live off of the land cannot control it, cannot control what they produce. That's all decided upon by a very small minority of oligarchical landlord families that control the political system in the country, that more or less work in collusion with large multinational corporations, agribusiness. So it's really important to shed light on these stories, because right now the main problem is the fact that these stories are not even known. So how can we, that's the most immediate thing, I think, is to get the story exposed. We should be the media. We should go there, and we should support alternative media, independent media in the Philippines that are trying to get these stories exposed. I mean, my organization is an example of an organization that's advocating very dedicated. We're dedicated advocates to the rural communities in the Philippines. We're a coalition. And amongst our own membership are organizations of farm workers and peasants. So we must also take leadership from the farm workers themselves that are organized to make changes for them, for their conditions. So we should work in solidarity with these organizations and also support them in their movement. On a strictly direct support, immediate relief level, we should definitely build our capacity to mobilize international medical relief to help these communities. Their stories must be told. We should mobilize more opportunities for their stories to be told. We should also support advocates in the regions that are providing support for these organizations, also trying to bring their stories to light, because they're also being targeted by the government. At the same time, we should also hold these big multinational corporations accountable by seeking ways to divest. Divest. How can we divest our own money from these corporations? We have to figure out ways to divest. And I think there are many organizations in the Philippines that are already exploring, and we should work with them. We should also support the movement of farm workers in the Philippines for genuine agrarian reform. And there are many organizations, including that are under BINE, because BINE is a coalition. One of the biggest membership organizations of BINE is Kilusan Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, or the peasant movement of the Philippines, or the farm workers movement of the Philippines, and they are a leading voice in the country for genuine agrarian reform.
So we had these brave souls lifting up their hands and showing us their deformed fingers. They were showing deformed fingers and in pain, and also asthma. They were trying to breathe as they were being interviewed. What can be done for people now, right now?
Yeah.
What can the audience do to kind of get involved in this?
We can mobilize health missions, international health missions to the Philippines to directly help these communities, and that's what many organizations, including mine, do. We organize international health missions. We try to mobilize nurses to provide medical services, including mobilizing medical supplies to these areas, where the government doesn't actually serve or mobilize medical relief to at all, because they want to keep these stories under the radar. So it's really up to the community, advocates, and particularly the international community to provide support. It's really going to take a large-scale people struggle to be able to implement lasting change, reforms that will have a lasting change for their conditions. So that's why there's a very vibrant movement in the Philippines right now. It's been around for decades to really push for fundamental changes in the country that would basically alleviate the majority of the country, which are farmers and peasants, from their plight, their social plight currently. Yeah. Oh, the immediate thing is to really push for solidarity, and by solidarity, that could take so many different forms. One form is through health services. Like I said, we organize health missions to the Philippines, particularly to regions like that where you find rural communities that are facing these type of problems, whether they be exposure to harmful chemicals by large corporate agribusiness or military tax from large corporate agribusiness or by the government. So it's really important to bring to shed light on these stories, because right now the main problem is the fact that these stories are not even known. So how can we, that's the most immediate thing, I think, is to get the story exposed. Yeah.
What is your name?
My name is Dominador Calamba.
What company are you working?
Stampelco, Dole, Stampelco.
How many years are you working with Dole?
40 years.
And what is the nature of your work?
Injector of pumason.
And what are you suffering for today? And what is your sickness?
Tuberculosis, kidney trouble, heart and liver and disease.
When the head of the family that's working on the farm is too sick or dies, then the wife and the children have to go into these farms and be exposed to these chemicals in the ground and in the air and in the water, and then they become sick. So it's pretty much a generational issue that's going on here. Is that what you find?
Yes, and it's really going to take a large-scale people struggle to be able to implement lasting change. The immediate thing is to really push for solidarity. And by solidarity, that can take so many different forms. One form is through health services. Like I said, we organize health missions to the Philippines, particularly to regions like that where you find rural communities that are facing these type of problems, whether they be exposure to harmful chemicals by large corporate agribusiness or military tax from large corporate agribusiness or by the government. So it's really important to bring to shed light on these stories, because right now the main problem is the fact that these stories are not even known. So how can that's the most immediate thing, I think, is to get the story exposed. Under the neoliberal economic paradigm, investors or the private sector has all the rights and the people have no rights. And you see right now there's this the Trans-Pacific Partnership is being negotiated, and if that passes, that's going to aggravate all of these problems to a higher level. And investors are going to be given even more rights. They'll be even given the right to sue if they feel like their investor rights have been impeded on. So, so when you say the fifth estate, the people have to rise up. I mean, that's the only hope for any lasting change. So we have to support people's movements, like the ones all over the world and in the Philippines that are really struggling to implement fundamental changes and are facing a lot of attack. So because of that, so these workers are very, very brave, because what they're doing is essentially could basically get them targeted by the government through the military.
Well, what's the good outcome though? What's the glass half full for them speaking out? Because we know that they're in danger. So what's the positive side of that?
The positive side is that their story gets out. And more people know about it, and more people are aware. And it can inspire also other workers to step forward and let their story be told. The basic problem right now is that farmers or rural communities can't own and control the land that they till, which means they also can't determine how food is produced. So that's all being determined by big landlords or large corporate agribusiness, which have different interests, right, from the farmers themselves. So, and by genuine agrarian reform, what we say is the land needs to be distributed from the landlords to the farmers, and the farmers have to have genuine opportunities to be able to own the land. Until such time that basic framework is not in place, the farmers will always face problems like this because they are beholden to free market forces whose only interest right now is to be able to hasten productivity. And what that basically means is the introduction of unsafe working conditions or chemicals that contaminate the environment and expose whole communities, including children, to disease, right? So we have to start with implementing a genuine agrarian reform program that will basically end the big landlord dynasty system in the Philippine government and distribute the land concretely to those who till it.